Hello, folks. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, when or wherever you may be. Now, as I said in my stream Saturday, the 20th of June, I said I would be addressing the new EU Migration Pact. The first thing I'm going to say is this. In my opinion, it is still too early to assess if the pact is effective or not. And secondly, I'm going to go through some of the issues, some of the considerations that we must have when we are analyzing this pact. And thirdly, you have to understand this was approved by a majority in the EU, meaning countries and political parties voted for this specific law. And also understand that, as I explained in some other videos, when you are applying EU law to national law, there are different ways of doing it. You either transcribe it directly into your law, meaning this the EU creates a law, and you create a law in your own judicial ordinance, or you adapt that law to your judicial ordinance so that it has the same effect. To be very simple, okay? This would mean I would have to be a bit more complicated because this has to do with EU law itself. But I think this is enough for you to understand. So, before we go into the discussion, I'm going to show you a video. It will be available in the descriptions here. It's from Euronews. I advise you to please go and see Euronews, subscribe to the news service. I find them to be some of the most balanced and fact-true news that you can get in terms of international news. So if you, for example, if you are in the United States or another place, but sometimes the news are not that good or they are more biased. If you want to have a fresh look over things, I would advise you to subscribe to Euronews. If you want to keep up with what is happening in Europe, I would also advise you to subscribe to the European Parliament, the European Commission channels, right here on YouTube, available to anyone, or to go directly to the EU institutions where you can read and know everything. Everything is available, all the news, all the informations, all the changes to the immigration laws and all of that. It's much if you just need to know English, okay, but you will find it in other languages. You'll find it in French, in Spanish, in Portuguese, in German, whatever, okay. In many languages you will find all the legal diplomas they are translated to all the languages that the EU uses. Okay, so this is me telling you that you can watch this video that I'm making, you can watch the video from Euronews that I'm showing to you, and then you can go yourselves directly to the source of the information and take and give your own opinion, okay, or create your own opinion. I don't know how to tell you this, okay, because to create an opinion, it has to do with your own personal bias, your own personal experience, your own personal interests. I'm just trying to show you and then give you my opinion. And as always, fact check me, and remember, this video is not monetized, okay? Remember this. I'm not here to make money. I'm here to talk with you about these things. Like I have said in all of my videos, imagine me as the guy in the cafe. We're sitting at the table, we're having, I don't know, an espresso perhaps, or a beer, something like that, and we are just talking. This is the type of spirit of idea that I want you to take away from these videos. I don't want you to think this is some fat guy sitting in a room with a fake green screen preaching to you. I'm not a preacher. I'm not a priest. I'm not a saint, and I'm not a sinner. I'm just a person like you. This is very important for me to you to consider this. I am just a person. I'm not here to teach you to be something else. I'm here to talk. Consider this a talk, coffee talk. Okay? Now, let's watch the video and then we can talk.
The European Parliament has approved a law aimed at speeding up the return of migrants with no legal right to remain in the EU, thanks to backing from centre-right and far-right political groups. The return regulation is the bloc's toughest shift in migration policy in decades. It is considered controversial as it would allow EU countries to set up deportation centres outside the bloc, known as return hubs, through agreements with non-EU countries. These hubs could serve either as transit facilities where people await return to their country of origin, or as locations where migrants remain for an extended period, potentially without a time limit or guarantee of onward return. Only unaccompanied minors would be exempt from the measure, while families with children could be transferred to the hubs. Other provisions include longer detention periods, tougher entry bans, and new powers to locate irregular migrants, as well as the ability to search for a so-called place of residence or other relevant premises. Some NGOs and civil society organizations have compared this to the notorious raids conducted by the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
All right, let's start with the beginning. Any unaccompanied minors, they are not going to be set into this type of process. This means that, for example, if in a group of migrants there are minors that are traveling alone, the EU institutions are going to take care of them wherever they go. This is a very important point. The question of the family with children, well, it's a family. They are accompanied by their parents and they have to go through the process. And now I'm going to talk a bit with you about the different perspectives in this matter. Number one, I do not agree this has anything to do with what the American immigration system, for example, the example that they use, does. Because we are not, if we are not talking about people that are fleeing political persecution or religious persecution. We are talking solely about economic migrants. And we are talking about a reality in the EU where there are perfectly legal mechanisms, perfectly clear mechanisms to allow people to migrate here, to work and to live here. I will give you an example of my country and I will tell you what they are doing now, and I'm going to explain to you why they had to do it. I'm talking about Portugal. Okay, we had to implement a much more restrictive immigration law because of several issues. And the main issue is this one that I'm going to tell you, and this so. People were taking advantage of us. They were using my country, they were using my institutions, they were using our infrastructure to better themselves. Using. I will repeat this word because it's important for you to understand. Using. The second thing I'm going to tell you is that I'm not some right-wing idiot that considers these people numbers and not people. I consider them all people. I consider them all worthy of respect and worthy of being listened to. Here, right now, You want to migrate and work here? Very well. You must have a job waiting for you, a place where you can stay, and you have to take a private insurance, health insurance thing. Okay, and why is that? Because a lot of immigrants, let's call it like this, migrants, whatever you want to call them, they were coming here. For example, women in at the end of their pregnancy, and they were taking advantage of our health systems to have their children here, and then to use those children as an excuse to remain in the country and to stay here collecting our social security from our taxes. They were not a majority, but they were significant enough to take to how is what's the word, to force our government to take these measures on. And then you will hear the versions of the opposite parties that are going to call it Nazism and call it names and try to get political gains out of it. But the truth is this: this was happening. I personally know of cases in which this happened. I'm not saying this was all the people, but they were doing this. This is the first part. Americans were also doing it, and they are not from a third world country, taking advantage of our healthcare system. Reason why? Now, my friend, get yourself a private health insurance. And that is the reason why it happens. After you are here with a temporary residence, at least permanent residence, sorry, then you can pay into the system and you can have the same rights as anyone else. But until then, no, because we don't know who you are, we don't know how long you are going to be here, and we need to take care of our taxes. My taxes serve for everything: for the roads, for the healthcare, for my healthcare, for the healthcare of my family, for the healthcare of the people of my country. And so should any country be able to do that. Now, one of the other reasons why this immigration law here became, but before that, let me just go back a bit. A lot of immigrants were entering with tourist visas, meaning people that were just going to spend a couple of weeks vacationing in Portugal. They would get a job, and then they would apply for temporary residence, and they would remain in that legal limbo that would force our government to grant them a temporary residence. Do you understand? Entering as tourists and then trying to stay here as workers. And this is absolutely illegal. And this is absolutely immoral and unethical. Because I'm not talking about a country that does not have legal ways to enter here. No, it's absolutely clear. If you go online to the Portuguese state sites and you see how to immigrate and work in Portugal, it's all there. It's absolutely clear. It's absolutely fair. There is no, so much so that a lot of people are living and working here. I know a lot of people. I know a lot of honest people, normal people from right now mainly from South America, and a couple from India and Bangladesh and Pakistan. Okay, these are and Americans. Bloody hell, I'm but I know a lot of these people. They are working because there is work. We need people to work. Okay, and we give people their rights. You start to work. You start to work. You pay your taxes, and you have the right to have some services. Basically, the only thing you cannot do is, for example, voting. Of course not. If you're not a citizen of the state, you cannot vote. And to me, that is absolutely clear. I don't care if you pay taxes. You are either a citizen or you are not. If you are not a citizen, you are not entitled to vote in the country where you live. And this is the hill where I will die. Because to be a citizen then implies that you have a certain uh, number of duties towards the state that you do not have if you are simply a resident that is paying taxes. So, sorry, but no. But going forward, things were also happening when migrants would enter in countries in Europe with more relaxed immigration laws, and then they would migrate to other countries, and they would uh, go to places where they should not go. For example, they would work, I don't know, 3 months in Spain, then they would find a job in Italy, and they would go to Italy, and the Italians would have to deal with them, with the adding up to the structures, to the infrastructures, to everything in that country. But they had entered to Spain. This was very common. You would find people that would work in Portugal, then they would work in Spain, then they would work in France. They will go all around. And some of them wouldn't work, which is even worse. And again, I will repeat this until the end. This is not even a majority of the people. This is not the majority of the people. Don't let yourselves be confused by the narrative of the racists in the far right and the far left too. Because you have them both in the spectrum. You have the far left trying to get political gains out of this, claiming this is a very racist pact and this and that. And you have the far right that is now claiming victory. And they are both bullshitters. The only thing that this law did was to put into a diploma what was already being done. I just explained to you what Portugal did. We increased our immigration restrictions because people were taking advantage of our system. And you are looking at me, my friends, I'm not a racist, okay? My forefathers were also immigrants. They came from other parts of Europe, half of them at least. So don't try to, what I'm trying to tell you is this: don't try to twist my words into something that they are not. What I have to say is the same thing that I said in the beginning of the video. We have to wait and see. Let's watch and let's see if this works. If it doesn't work, then something is wrong and it has to be solved. But I would tell you this: put yourself in the shoes of people, for example, in Greece, in one of those islands filled with migrants. Put yourself in the shoes of someone living in the Spanish Isles, the Canaries, for example. Put yourself in the shoes of someone living in one of the cities in Europe that are filled with migrants. Put yourself in the shoes of those people. They have to use the public transportations, they have to use the healthcare system, and sometimes they are not getting their services because the services are overwhelmed. So there needs to be a bit of discipline. Also, separate things. Separate what is an economic migrant and what is a political migrant. Separate the waters. You have to do it. You also have to consider that there are people that need temporary help because of whatever is happening in their country, and people that need permanent help, that cannot return to their country. Also consider the type of migration policy that Europe has. We are not United States of America. We do not put children in chains. If you go to any center, for example, I will give you an example. There is a migration detention camp. We don't even call it detention camp. We call it camp. There is a migration detention camp in Lisbon. Families are together in prefabricated houses. People have access to healthcare. People have access to food. People have access to legal counseling, and people are treated as human beings. We are not treating people like numbers. We need to analyze a case by case principle. And we cannot do that if our system is overloaded. And also, remember who is causing this shit. The wars that the United States is engaging in, and Israel is engaging in, is pushing a lot of people to run away and to come to Europe because it's the safest place where you can be in the area. Remember this: we cannot help if we don't have discipline. What I read, I know I read a lot of YouTubers and a lot of people that came out and said that they were worried. And what I have to tell those people is this: always be worried. I am worried. I always question. But first, I see if it works. Our new immigration policy here in Portugal, I am seeing it work. I'm seeing more discipline in the way that people are admitted into my country. I am seeing better conditions for the people that enter in my country, which is very important to me. It's very important to me that someone that comes into my country or already has a contract to work, already has a place to stay, because this means no one is going to fool them and exploit them, and exploit them. Because I, as a citizen, I do not feel comfortable in a place where someone is exploited for my benefit. And to a broader degree, if our state allows people to be exploited, we are all benefiting on exploited people, and that is not correct. From what I read in the legal documents that are available right now, not much is available. I know now it's that diploma is going to have to be structured. It's already structured, okay, but it's going to have to be structured in a way that it's going to be applied to the different countries of the EU according to those rules that I told you. Direct application, adapted application. I don't know how they are going to do it. But one thing I do know, with the exception of the time of detention, for example, or whatever, this is nothing new. This is absolutely nothing new. I'm seeing a lot of political people, a lot of people taking advantage of this from a political point of view to get votes, to claim the far right is doing this and that. And it absolutely disgusts me, because the only position that the people that don't agree with this should be is, all right, you all approve this, right? We are going to be here to tell you when this shit doesn't work. And that is absolutely fair, and that is how you must act. And also be very careful with all of the misinformation and fake news that are floating around in the internet. And while I was researching for this video, I did my stream yesterday, and afterwards I didn't make the video. I'm recording this Sunday, the 21st of June. Okay, but afterwards I went to see the diploma. I went to watch a couple of videos, news videos talking about it, And I saw a lot of shit floating around that is misleading people. Look, immigration, like everything, it has to have rules. I once told you, don't confuse me with some far leftist maniac, because I am not that. And I am also most definitely not a fucking Nazi. Alright? I'm not one of those. I don't even want you to compare me with them, because they have nothing to do with me. They think of these people as numbers. They use them as ways of propping up their political gains, saying such obnoxious things like taking videos of people arriving in boats and claiming they are being invaded and all of that shit. And I hate that, because it's one, because it's a law, it's a lie. Two, because those are people like me and you. They are not animals, and they are definitely not numbers. Let's wait and see. But I will be completely honest with you. From what I read, there is absolutely nothing wrong with this law. Nothing. It allows countries to develop mechanisms to deal with the immigration in a way that is quicker, in a way that is fairer, and in a way that allows the states to have sovereignty over their borders. Because you cannot live this way. You cannot have dozens of people arrive. And also, don't fall into the narrative that this happens every day and they are continuously coming and this and that. Don't fall into that narrative. What I'm trying to tell you is, you cannot have a situation where you have a state that, for example, imagine this: you have a city, a town with 5,000 people, you have structures to 5,000 people, and all of a sudden, 1,000 more people arrive. 1,000 more people that you have to feed, that you have to house, that you have to provide healthcare, that you have to provide education, that you have to provide jobs, all of that. This is the situation that we have, and this is the side of the barricade, so to speak, that you have to look into. And then don't fall into the narrative of the ones that are trying to profit on this shit. Don't fall into it, because it's absolutely wrong. It is wrong to look at things without seeing the facts. I read it, what I could read about it carefully. I did not find anything that is against the law. I found things like, for example, they like this, you heard in the video, they extended the period of which a person can be in a camp. And then what can happen if that person can go to one of the states that is willing to take in those migrants into their own borders? There are a couple of countries that do that. If they have to be repatriated, meaning sent back to their home country, sorry, or if they are admitted into the country. This is just giving time for the state of the state where those migrants arrive to know what they are going to do. This gives time to analyze the story of each person. This continues to protect minors, children. Children continue to be protected. I know for a fact that here, when they lodge people, families are lodged together. They have their own space. They are not thrown into some kind. Look, the vision that they want to tell you is this: they are sent into a camp and now débrouillez-vous, okay? But it's not that. It's not that way that things are done. And if anyone is doing that, they are going against the law, EU law, and they can be heavily sanctioned. And it has happened. Countries have been fined by the way they were treating migrants. because you cannot do this. But you also have to understand this. Russia is using migrants as a political way of destabilizing Europe. They are letting migrants enter in their country, and then they are pushing them to the borders of Europe. Just go to Polish news. Just go to, I don't know if they were doing it in Finland too. I think they tried. Or the Baltic states. Just go there and you will see what they are doing. You have to consider all of these things before you issue an opinion. So, my final conclusion is this. For now, at least, let's wait and let's see how things develop. Let's see if this law is useful or not. And to me, this law will have worked if people are protected and respected. That is my only worry. Because unlike some that are trying to get some kind of a political advantage over this, some parties that are trying to do this, there are a lot of parties right here in my country doing this. One of them is those demagogues, are demagogues from the right, and the others, I call them also demagogues from the left. Both of them are trying to get political gains over this shit. They are using people as political weapons. And to me, at least, that is both disrespectful and unethical. To me, the right response to this law, again, I will repeat it, is let's watch and let's see how this works. If it doesn't work, then I'm pretty sure that changes will be applied. Because unlike, look, I told this in the other video where the Americans were saying the French government is falling and this is a great crisis and that and no. Whenever there is discussion of ideas, whenever a government falls, this means democracy is working. A government just fell here last year. And it's good for everyone. Because you must have democracy. You must have political discussion. That is the only way that you see that the democracy is alive. When everyone is agreeing with each other, my friends, there is an issue. Because only in authoritarian regimes, everyone agrees with themselves. Everyone says, yes, the boss is right. No. We must discuss ideas. We must find consensus, and in my opinion, what I will remind you again, 418 votes against 200 and something votes approved this law. I will have to trust in the judgment of those 400 people, those 400 MPs that are defending also my rights and my interest and the interests of my country. So they approved this law. Now let's see if it works. If it works, wonderful. If it doesn't work, go back to the parliament, correct it. Correct what is wrong. And especially do not lose our humanity and our proper treatment of people and of their stories and of their lives. Because these are people. Migrants are not aliens, they are not numbers, they are people. And this is something we should never, never forget. This is my opinion. Folks, thank you all for listening to me, for watching this video, and I hope to catch you all in the next one. Stay safe.